I'll be along shortly to say hello.
Hey guys, Nick here, and today I'm going to bring you a Defiant build. So, we have a few different Defiants in the game. Today I'm going to be showing you off a build on the Terran Adamant Intel Heavy Raider. The guys, just as before we get started with anything, I want to say Spencer made that thumbnail. I'm not even going to lie about that one. Spencer made that thumbnail as a troll to me, because one night I think I was having a little bit of a bitch session that I hate making thumbnails and so on and so on, and must have been tired and I wasn't feeling great. And he made that for me and went, there you go, there's a thumbnail. And you know what? I went, you know what? I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use it. So here we are, and it's gonna be up on YouTube forever. Anyway, guys, so this is I want to say mid to upper range version of Mara's mirror angle build. So, guys, if you don't know what that is and who Mara is, I'm going to put links down below to Mara's channel and the build that Spencer made on the video that Spencer made on the build down below. And the build itself is a plasma CSV on the mirror angle, but it basically has enough survivability to solo elites, enough damage to solo elites, enough control to solo elites, and that's all through cooldown reduction with unconventional systems and the Voven console. So if you don't know what the Voven console and how to fully take advantage of it, I'm going to put another link down below to a video Spencer made, and if you go down to the chapter about the impact that the Voven has had, and it'll show you the settings you need to change to use the Voven console, and it won't make you jump when you don't have something targeted. This is what allows us to use this console as much as we want, as quickly as we can, and it won't jump us to get this cooldown reduction. So I'll show you here. Like, we hit Fleet Power Network Array, and I'll hit my Voven keybind. See, I hit the Voven. I've gotten 25% back on my Fleet Power Network Array, and I haven't moved from where I am. So that means as you're in combat, you can hit that console every time it's up. You see it up, boom, hit your Voven keybind. It allows you to keep these consoles up very often, or as much as you can. So Fleet Power Network Array, Adaptive Emergency Systems, the Guardian console, and many more that have the ability to be cooled down while they're running. So that means it's a good chance that with a build like this, or a build like the Mirror Angle or the Atlantis, a ship with high uncon potential, and the Voven console, that you'll have almost 100% uptime on a lot of these consoles. Alright, guys, to the build. I'm just going to say that the weapons, this was, so the mid-range comes in now. This was weapons I had sitting around on my main, or that I just crafted and just went, okay, I'm going to throw these on this build, and we'll just get it together. So other than the Terran DHC, everything else was just on my main. So we have 3 crafted dual heavy phaser cannons from, oh god, I want to say it'd be more than 5 years ago on my main, and I just moved them over here. And the radiolytic phaser dual heavy cannon was on my main because I got one when it came out, and I thought, oh, let's throw it over here and we use it. So just to repeat, guys, we have the Terran Task Force dual heavy cannon from the Reputation Terran Task Force tier 6. So to get the phaser variants of the Terran weapons, you have to have your Terran Task Force at Reputation level 6. 3 crafted phaser dual heavy cannons, and 1 radiolytic phaser dual heavy cannons. Guys, this was sort of like I won't say an experiment, but this just shows you that some of these weapons, they don't really matter what you're using. If you want to get that last little bit of damage out, okay, sure, maybe using 4 radiolytics or 4 sense-linked might do a little bit better. But with this, I do enough damage to carry most teams, and I also have enough survivability to live a lot of the content, surprisingly. Alright, next up, guys, we have the Elite Fleet Intervention Protomatter Deflector, otherwise known as the Colony Deflector. So if you see somewhere they say, oh, yeah, use a Colony Deflector, this is what they mean. This is from the Fleet Colony world. This is the go-to deflector for a majority of the builds you'll probably see on my channel if it's not a tank. Next up, we have the prevailing innovated impulse engines. This is from our competitive reputation at tier 3. This will give us a speed boost every time we hit our firing mode. So for firing mode is our scatter volley, and well, only the scatter volley on this build because I don't have torpedo spread or beam overload or fire at will. So guys, those are your firing modes. So every time you hit a firing mode, you get a 350% flight speed buff and a flight turn rate buff, and also a 10% increase recharge speed on tactical bridge officer abilities. So your cannon scatter volley. I'm trying to think on this build. Probably only cannon scatter volley and best serve cold, but you know, your attack pattern betas, your torpedo spread, your beam overload, your fire at wills, all count as tactical bridge officers. So a nice little speed boost and increased cooldown reduction for your tactical bridge officers. Next up, we have the mycelial harmonic matter antimatter core. Guys, I'm running this plus the Tilly reviews pending modified shield for the 2-piece. So this comes into survivability. This is a great 2-piece from the reputation for survivability for any build, from science to support to tank to cannon scatter volley to anything. Is this 2-piece here is plus 120% hull regeneration. You don't need to have a certain amount of hull. You don't need to be, at low HP for it to work. It just works. It's 120% hull regeneration. So that's a nice little boost to hull regeneration. Next up, guys, in the aft, we have the omnidirectional Parvin proton beam array. So this is probably the strongest aft weapon in the game now. And I did put it on because I like DPS. It might not be in the exact Defiant theme, but I like DPS. I've got my 5 phases up the front, so that's enough for me, and my hexacannon up the rear. I'm happy to have the Parvin on me to increase my damage considerably. But the main reason this is on the build, everybody, if you do have this from the event, I never can remember when these are when I record them, is for the resonant charge. So here, 33% for +1 resonance charge to target, up to 10 max for 60 seconds, 2,200 proton damage. It might not sound like a lot, and then up to 3 nearby foes. It might not sound like a lot, but when you get this under a firing mode with a bit of haste, it really starts to add up. You'll notice the Parvin Omni itself won't do a lot, but if you look on the pass, Resonant Shock, that's what it'll look under. That's what it'll pass under. It does a considerable amount. Next up, another weapon that does a considerable amount, the prototype phaser hexacannons from the Achilles in the C-Store. So I'll show you that real quick. The Achilles in ships. So the Achilles Miracle Worker Heavy Dreadnought. That ship has a great console and great trait, and as well as a great little platform, great little looking, great handling ship. Has these hexacannons. So they are, it's basically 6 shots of a cannon. So, I wanted to do a phaser cannon build. You pretty much got to have the hexacannons on now. Even if this wasn't a really, really hard-hitting experimental, I probably would have still put it on for this build because I just, I wanted to see a lot of cannons coming out of the Defiant. I sound like Triz there with these torpedoes, but sort of the goal was to have a good performing Defiant build that uses a lot of phaser cannons. Next up with our devices, deuterium surplus to let us move. We have a battery for weapons and auxiliary to combined with our fleet power network array. If you didn't know, the fleet power network array scales with auxiliary power, so the more aux power you have, the more haste it gives you. So we have this combo of battery, override subsystem safeties, and then the fleet power, so that'll give me a lot of haste every time I hit that. And last but not least, the red matter capacitor. So nothing locked, nothing from an event that you can't get, just all mostly your day-to-day stuff that you can just get out of the dill store or from your R&Ds. Alright guys, next up, our universal and engineering consoles. Next, so we have 5 phaser isomags. Guys, These are Advanced Engineering Isomagnetic Plasma Distribution Manifolds. Guys, if you don't know where these come from, these are from the R&D, from the Engineering tab, from Advanced Engineering Consoles. So this term doesn't have high R&D, but Isomagnetic Plasma Consoles, and whatever level you want, boom. Trying to craft them can be pain, trying to reroll them can be the pain. I just bought these for EC because I'm generally EC flush. But it just shows, you just do a random TFO and you can craft these. So if you just sit there and have a decent enough build and you don't have too many of these, just do random TFOs. Random elite, sorry, I misspoke there twice. Random elite TFOs, guys, just as I say this, people might jump in and do random elite TFOs. Please bring your strong builds. Bring your strong builds. I'm gonna say that. Because don't bring like a fresh character that's got nothing on it to random elite TFOs and need to be carried. Please bring your strong builds. Next up, guys, we have the DPRM, the Dynamic Power Redistributor Module. I misspoke like 15 times before. That's why I've cut it out. And there's 2 parts this recording if somebody noticed. Jesus Christ, I'm about to say, didn't really say why that was on the build. Guys, this is on the build because, one, if you can see the plus 40 bonus damage well above 80%, so nice damage increase. 100 bonus damage resistance rating, so that makes me very tanky. So look here, I'll show you off. So see how I'm sitting 26 to 27% resistance rating. We'll hit the console, boom, 63s. So you've gone from a ship that's quite squishy to a ship that could probably take a good hit from a torpedo and not really noticed it. So for the 20 seconds it's running, you are considerably tanky. And the 500% hull regeneration. So if you say take a torpedo spread to the face from attack cube on elite, you'll probably live and you'll regen all that health back in a few seconds. So it helps to have a little bit of defensiveness. And DPRM is probably the best single target heal in the game. Like I've said many, many times now in my videos. Guys, the DPRM, if you do have it, a very strong console. It's probably the most premium thing on this build, but it's in the MUDs market now. So probably a lot of us have it now on account unlock. Next up, we have the Subspace Fracture Tunneling Field, otherwise known as the Voven console. Guys, so if you don't know what the Voven console does, you can see on the bottom of the tooltip there, reduces recharge time of Universal Console abilities by 25%. So see how my DPRM is probably 1/3 done? I'll hit my Voven keybind, and we'll show you how my DPRM just got back about 30 seconds of its cooldown, like that. So, guys, this is sort of the power piece of this build, and a lot of builds now is the Voven console. It's allowing us to keep our Universal Consoles rolling continuously, so you've always got something going, you've always got something to use, and it allows us to be really quite powerful. Next up, guys, we have the Binaural Infusion Circuits. Guys, so this is a stat stick. This is for 26 crit severity, 29.5 control expertise, and 29.5 hull capacity. So it's a nice stat stick for this build. If you don't have low B, you could replace this with the adaptive emergency systems for the bonus damage and bonus damage resistance rating, because that's another very strong Universal Console that can be cooled down. You could replace this with the Sensor Phantom Projector. You could Tachyonet drones. There's a lot of things you could replace this with. If you don't have some of this, you can ask me in my Discord or the comment section down below for alternates for this build. But the Binaural is always a good mainstay on a lot of my builds because the stats that it provides are very useful and there's none that'll be wasted. Next up, we have the Agony Redistributor from, this ship. Guys, so if you have the Terran Adamant, you have the Agony console. So this works like a AoE recursive string. So if you've never used it or if you don't own it, if you mark a target, it will spread out 33% of the damage you've done to that target. So say you've done 1,000,000 damage to one target and there's targets outside or around it, it'll do 333,000 damage to targets around your marked target. So just think about that. It's a AoE outward recursive shearing. So it doesn't, if you just have one target, it's not going to do a lot of damage. If you have multiple in a ball, you mark one, do damage to that one, and it'll spread damage around. So it can be quite useful for taking down multiple big targets, because you can mark one, and then everybody else's damage also helps too. That's why it is locked to one per target. So you sit there and firing away, firing away, firing away. Everybody else is sitting there firing away, firing away, and this console's just spreading damage out, spreading damage out. Next up, we have the Fleet Power Network Array console. So, quickly, guys, this is for a huge amount of haste. I see it down below on the tooltip, 50 to 125% directed energy weapon fire cycling haste. So, guys, this scales with auxiliaries. So, something quickly with the Fleet Power Network Array. So see how I have 44. You always want to try and use this with as much auxiliary power as you can. So that's why I'm running the dual batteries with weapons and auxiliary. So normally, if I'm going to use the Fleet Power Network Array with this build, I want to try and use it with a battery and OSS before I do it. So like, you see my power down below. Right now it's 44 and 35. I'm going to hit all three. Boom. 164. So I had 164 aux when it went off. So that'll be getting me, I don't even want to guess the number, but be well over 125% haste. So that's a massive boost for 35 seconds of this build. And with how much cooldown reduction I have, I'll be able to use that almost straight away before it drops off. Like, before my 35 seconds are up, if I'm in combat, that'll be up again. So it is a huge boost to your weapons, your energy weapons haste. Next up, we have the Micro Quantum Torpedo Phalanx Array. So this is the Achilles console. So from the C-Store, the Achilles that gave us the hexacannons. This is 10 targeting torpedoes and 10 homing, 10 targeting and 10 seeking. Sorry, it would be the correct words for you, everybody. So we generally like to use this console on like big targets, so that the 10 targeting will hit the target, the main one, and the 10 seeking will then have something, you know, if it doesn't hit the main target, it'll hit things around it, so you get maximum use out of it. But it's on this build, even though it's a torpedo console, it's on this build because it just does a lot of damage to big targets, and because this isn't my like a premium, like a complex plasma fires build, it needs that little bit of punch into big targets to help take them down, but it does really help. And guys, the main, I wouldn't say the mainstay, but a mainstayer on pretty much every energy weapon build now, tanks, the shield absorbative frequency generator, or the Valdog console, guys. Basically this is just a massive amount of shield healing. It's a passive console, you don't have to think about it. Throw it on your build, and it's just going to keep your shields up. So it's a 2.5% chance per shot, not per, like, as 2.5, chance. It's 2.5% chance per shot, not like crit or anything. Just every time you fire, to restore 200% of that damage to your shield. So if you do like a 50k hit, you'll have 100,000 heal coming to your shields, and that can happen every couple of seconds. So with like a good amount of haste, this console, it does massive amounts of shield healing for me. And last but not least, the custom power matrix. So this is the console from the Ilios. So if you notice, I'm using a couple of vent ships here to fill in just my build, because they're very strong consoles now. So guys, this is, if you see this on my trays, this is the Ilios console. It's a passive toggle console, and you can use all three. So the first one is 20% fire cycling haste. Next one, 15 crit severity, and lastly, 5 crit chance. So as a passive console, guys, if you want to like compare this to, say, the assimilated module, that is 1 crit chance and 10 severity. No fire cycling haste. It does have weapon power, but the Ilios console is quite strong now for a passive, because that's more crit than the assimilated, that's more severity than the assimilated, and it also has more haste than the assimilated. And say you want to compare that to Domino, it's got very similar haste. It's got a little bit less haste, but it's got more uptime. It's got 100% uptime So it's got probably more in the long run for haste. And then it's got 5 crit chance and 15 severity to then add to it as well. Is a very strong console that they've given us for free. So thank you, Deca. Alright guys, now to our skills and specialization. So guys, real quick, my standard 27 points, not mine, but pretty much everybody's standard 27 point in TAC, 10 in engineering, 9 in science skill tree. But if you haven't seen it before, I'll leave it up on the screen just for a minute. This is my go-to on pretty much all my characters. And there's the last points in Admiral and Captain. As if you haven't seen it, there you go. There's, you're going to pause the video if you haven't seen it before and want to copy it. There you go. And if you have any questions on this, you can, Spencer has done a video on it. You can just type in skills to Spencer's channel, you'll find it. And to our specializations, we are running Intel Primary, so Intelligence Officer for the increased flanking damage, and Strategist for the increased crit and crit severity is pretty much the main reason why I'm picking it on this one. Because for a phaser build, you're not really going to get a lot out of Entropic Rider, and I don't really have anything scaling with EPG, so the plus EPG stat isn't going to be too impactful for me. So I thought we'll run Intel Strat and, you know, be like the old days. Alright, next up, the personal space traits, starship traits, and space reputations. So guys, this is, you know, where I'm not going to go like full premium. This, you know, you've got the Liberated Borg Kingdom nanoprobes from the 14th anniversary bundle. We have the Boimler effect for our cooldown reduction from Lobo Store. We have the harmonic shield linkage from the most recent lockbox. I forget the name of it right now. The Partners in Crime lockbox. A good day to die, and unconventional systems that are premium. So we have a sort of a little bit of a mixture, but yeah, you can quite easily say, all right, I don't want Liberated Borg Kingdoms because you don't want to just buy the 14th anniversary just for that. Yeah, and so on. But we have Cannon Training, we have Innocuous, we have Liberated Borg Kingdom nanoprobes, we have the Boimler effect, harmonic shield linkage, accurate, a good day to die, unconventional systems, and fleet coordinator. Guys, I know I didn't just explain what any of them did, so I can go back and do that right now. So, real quick, it's 5 bonus cannon weapon damage. So, this is a cannon build. This is just a 5% increase on the damage I do. Innocuous, 5 crit severity, and minus 25% threat generation. So, I have designed this ship to take a beating, but I don't want it to be a tank, so minus threat generation for free is always very nice. So, on the same line of, yeah, I want this ship to be able to take a beating, but also do it, you know, give a beating on its own right. 20, so it's scaling trait, so plus 20 crit severity and plus 20 kinetic damage resistance rating. So, most of the time, you'll find builds like this, it's not going to be like the energy weapons, it's going to be the torpedoes that really hurt you. So, plus 20 kinetic damage resistance rating doesn't sound like a lot, but, yeah, it might be what saves you from that random high-yield torpedo that comes your way and just wants to annihilate you. Next up, we have probably the most premium trait, the Boimler effect. So 17.5% chance to recover the recharge time of all other bridge officer abilities to their shared category cooldown. So basically, this brings all your bridge officers to their global cooldown, giving a massive amount of cooldown reduction. So it's very powerful, guys. So if you have a bit of lobby, I'd say this is your first buy if you're wanting builds, because this will be on every single build of yours when you can afford it. Next up, we have the Harmonic Shield Linkage trait from the Partners in Crime lockbox. So this is not brand new because it's been out for well over a month now, but so this is 2% max shield restored every 2 seconds and 2% shield resistance, stacking up to 10 times. And it stacks by a player or NPCs of cruiser rank or higher. So guys, are saying if you have 10 players around you, so see right now I have 10 stacks of it, every 2 seconds I get 20% shields healed on my shields every 2 seconds, and 20% shield resistance rating. So it's providing me with quite a lot of passive shield healing alongside my Valdor console to make me quite durable. Next up, we have Accurate. Plus 10 accuracy. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Accuracy, make sure we don't miss. I'm trying to keep this more on the budgeter side. Well, this is where a lot of people struggle, is affording the trait, so I thought we'll keep this on a bit more of a budget side. But a good day to die, I think that's like a go-to for attack. Like, you probably could, say, all right, we go unconventional systems before you go a good day to die if you're gonna buy this in like an order. But a good day to die is like, it's just a go-to for attack. That's your first sort of buy. That's, you attack without a good day to die, because go down fighting is a 50% damage boost. And when you have other traits like Intelligent Agent Attaché or maybe Darmok and Jalad, that's a lot of cooldown reduction to your captain abilities, and that means a lot of damage and a lot of damage resistance rating as well from go down fighting. That's one of the main reasons alongside Attack Pattern Alpha why attacks just do so much more damage than Engineerings and Size. Unconventional systems. So one of the big power traits of this build and the mirror angle build that I mentioned earlier is using a control bridge officer ability minus 7% recharge to your universal console. So guys, if you don't know what a control bridge officer ability is, that's your things like gravity well, tractor beam, scramble sensors, jam sensors, Heisenberg amplifier, eject warp plasma, and chronometric inversion field, as well as ionic turbulence, tractor beam, photonic shockwave. There's a lot of them. There's ones from Pilot. Guys, there's quite a few of them there. If you don't know what they are, look up on the Stowe wiki, unconventional systems, and it'll show you every control ability in the game that will proc this trait. And last but not least, Fleet Coordinator for our 10% bonus to all damage per well, I'm going to say it's 2% per teammate times by 5 is 10%, so it's 10% bonus damage. And because, it's an alt, we left the 10th trait locked. Next up, guys, our Starship traits. So, Emergency Weapon Cycle, pretty explanatory now. I hope everybody knows what Emergency Weapon Cycle does. Minus 50% power cost, 20% fire cycling haste when you hit emergency powder weapons for 30 seconds. But because emergency powder weapons has its 30-second duration and a 15-second global cooldown, that means we have 100% uptime on this trait. So we have 100% uptime on minus 50 and minus 50 weapon power cost and 20 fire cycling haste. Next up, we have Polarized Lattice Optimized Tritanium Armor. When taking more than 20% of your max health in 5 seconds, gain Polarized Lattice Optimized Tritanium Armor for 15 seconds. Immune to transported warheads. Heals you for 24,000 hull over the duration. 250 all damage resistance rating, and removes hazard debuffs and dots each second. Max once per 45 seconds. So, guys, I wanted to make sure this build is a bit more durable, so something like this is going to be on the build. You could run, if you don't have the 10th anniversary, it means or the ability to have this ship. I don't know actually where else it comes from. I think it comes from there's a promo Donny, but I think I get it from the legendary. You can run like Honored Dead, maybe the new Garrett trait, something cheap. You've got your like best defense and so on. But with this build, I wanted to just make sure it would live, so Polarized Lattice Optimized Tritanium Armor or Plot Armor. I'm trying to think because I did a little bit of PvP the other night, I'm trying to think the immunity trait from Zal it's the Zal Lobby ship, guys. I don't remember the name of it right now. I'm just mentioning it because I think if Sir Turk was to listen to this video, the guy who's been at me to do more PvP, he'll give him a little bit of a smile. Next up, we have Thirst for Battle. So, guys, this is like that mid-range. If you've got the Legendary Battle Cruiser bundle, you've got emergency weapon cycle because it's the legendary Arbiter. Yeah, the legendary Avenger is an Arbiter. You'll have Thirst for Battle and you'll have Ship of the Line. So Thirst for Battle is when using Cloak, Cannon Rapid Fire, or Cannon Scatter Volley. 230 turn rate, strength, and flight speed strength. So 230 turn rate and speed buff for 15 seconds, and as well a 40% increase to damage. So it is every 15 seconds. Cannon Scatter Volley has a 15-second global cooldown, meaning this will have 100% uptime. Next up, with the Ship of the Line, emergency power abilities grant 20% crit severity for 30 seconds. This bonus can stack an additional 10% per stack. Guys, this is your emergency weapon powers, your emergency powder weapons, your emergency powder engines. So every time you use one of those, and we're going to use one every 15 seconds, it's going to give us more crit severity, up to 50%. Next up, we have Withering Barrage. Guys, as you know, I've hopefully said before, and now thinking it, I don't think I have. With all energy weapon builds, you want to use an extension trait. I know I've talked about extension traits, but just said that, like, with energy weapon builds, you always want to use an extension trait. So with ETM, ETM is for Fire at Will and CSV, but your main one for CSV is Withering Barrage. It's got the easiest straight up. You throw it on, and that's a good extension trait for Cannon Scatter Volley. Instead of that gamble on like having to time abilities with ETM and having a lower rank, with this you'll just have a high CSV3. So guys, this is from you get it now. Everyone can get it for free with the KDF recruit. I know it's just passed probably a month or so ago, but Defiance, the Malums, and the core, the legendary Defiant, and so on. There's a lot of ways to get Withering Barrage now, but just to be noted, if you're watching this and you do not have a Withering Barrage, you can get it for free with a KDF recruit. So if you're the sort of player that, you know, is happy to wait almost a year for the KDF recruit to come back around, I'd wait for that, because you'll get Withering Barrage for free for having a KDF recruit. Next up, we have Overpowered and Overgunned from the legendary Defiant, of all ships. On beam and cannon special firing mode, -15 weapon power cost for 9.4 seconds, 12.5 fire cycling haste weapons for 9.4 seconds, from 5 to 10 seconds based on your global critical strike chance. So guys, this is what this is saying is, wow, I just misspoke. Is the time will scale on your crit chance. So the more crit chance you have, the higher time you'll have up on this. So if I had a little bit more, I would have 10 seconds on the duration of this. But 9.4 is a good little buff to my cannons. And just one of those, I have it on account unlock. I wasn't going to give it any premium trait. I wasn't going to give it no ruin, no cultural, no strike, no anything that's premium that I don't have on account unlock wasn't going on this build. And last but not least, we have temporal tunneling from the Atlantis. When triggered, max once per 15 seconds, 100% fire cycling haste for energy weapons. Now thinking it, I don't think I have. So this works out to be like all energy weapon builds, you want to use an extension trait buff. I know I've talked about extension traits, but just said that, like, with energy weapon builds, you always want to use an extension trait. So with ETM, ETM is for Fire at Will and CSV, is because your main one for CSV for temporal tunneling. Best of Cold has a global cooldown of 15 seconds. That's a good extension. Temporal tunneling can be triggered once every 15 seconds. So basically, meaning temporal tunneling is your like having to time. Best of Cold is your temporal having a lower rank. With this, you'll just have a high CSV3. So guys, this is from you get it. Now everyone can get it for free with the KDF recruit. I know it's just passed probably a month or so ago, but Defiance, the Malums, and the core, the legendary Defiant, and so on. There's a lot of ways to get Withering Barrage now, but just to be noted, if you're watching this and you do not have a Withering Barrage, you can get it for free with a KDF recruit. So if you're the sort of player that, you know, is happy to wait almost a year for the KDF recruit to come back around, I'd wait for that, because you'll get Withering Barrage for free for having a KDF recruit. Next up, we have Overpowered and Overgunned from the legendary Defiant, of all ships. On beam and cannon special firing mode, -15 weapon power cost for 9.4 seconds, 12.5 fire cycling haste weapons for 9.4 seconds, from 5 to 10 seconds based on your global critical strike chance. So guys, this is what this is saying is, wow, I just misspoke. Is the time will scale on your crit chance. So the more crit chance you have, the higher time you'll have up on this. So if I had a little bit more, I would have 10 seconds on the duration of this. But 9.4 is a good little buff to my cannons, and just one of those, I have it on account unlock. I wasn't going to give it any premium trait. I wasn't going to give it no ruin, no cultural, no strike, no, no anything that's premium that I don't have on account unlock wasn't going on this build. And last but not least, temporal tunneling from the Atlantis. When triggered, max once per 15 seconds, 100% fire cycling haste for energy weapons for 5 seconds. So this works out to be like a 33% haste buff because you have 5 in 15, so it's a third. And quickly, reason why Best Serve Cold's on this build is because it is the best trigger for temporal tunneling. Best Serve Cold has a global cooldown of 15 seconds. Temporal tunneling can be triggered once every 15 seconds, so basically meaning temporal tunneling is your Best Serve Cold is your temporal tunneling trait trigger. Wow. Next up, we have Withering Barrage. Guys, as you know, I've hopefully said before, and now thinking it, I don't think I have. With all energy weapon builds, you want to use an extension trait. I know I've talked about extension traits, but just said that like with energy weapon builds, you always want to use an extension trait. So with ETM, ETM is for fire at will and CSV, but your main one for CSV is Withering Barrage. It's got the easiest straight up. You throw it on, and that's a good extension trait for cannon scatter volley. Instead of that gamble on like having to time abilities with ETM and having a lower rank, with this you'll just have a high CSV3. So guys, this is from you get it now. Everyone can get it for free with the KDF recruit. I know it's just passed probably a month or so ago, but Defiance, the Malums, and the core, the legendary Defiant, and so on. There's a lot of ways to get Withering Barrage now, but just to be noted, if you're watching this and you do not have a Withering Barrage, you can get it for free with a KDF recruit. So if you're the sort of player that is happy to wait almost a year for the KDF recruit to come back around, I'd wait for that because you'll get Withering Barrage for free for having a KDF recruit. Next up, we have Overpowered and Overgunned from the legendary Defiant, of all ships. On beam and cannon special firing mode, -15 weapon power cost for 9.4 seconds, 12.5 fire cycling haste weapons for 9.4 seconds, from 5 to 10 seconds based on your global critical strike chance. So guys, this is what this is saying is, wow, I just misspoke. Is the time will scale on your crit chance. So the more crit chance you have, the higher time you'll have up on this. So if I had a little bit more, I would have 10 seconds on the duration of this. But 9.4 is a good little buff to my cannons, and just one of those, I have it on account unlock. I wasn't going to give it any premium trait. I wasn't going to give it no ruin, no cultural, no strike, no anything that's premium that I don't have on account unlock wasn't going on this build. And last but not least, temporal tunneling, guys. So this is 100% fire cycling haste for energy weapons for 5 seconds, and this can be triggered once per 15 seconds. So guys, this is basically mass out to be a 33% buff to your fire cycling haste on average. Sure, it's 100 every 5, but I like to say it as a 33% fire cycling haste buff across the board. And guys, if you questioned earlier why Best Serve Cold was on the build, it is for temporal tunneling. Best Serve Cold is the most consistent proc of the trait that you can get. Temporal tunneling once every 15 seconds. Best serve colds, global cooldown, 15 seconds. So guys, that is why best serve cold is on this build, is because it is the temporal tunneling trigger for me. Next up, the space reputation. Advanced targeting. So guys, usual except for one. 20 crit severity. So always nice to have crit severity. Precision, 5 crit hit chance. Always nice to have crit chance. Tireless duality, 5.2% crit chance based on your hull cap. So 7.5 at 200. So if you have more hull, you'll have more crit chance. So guys, maybe if you wanted to use the Garrett trait, that might get you a bit more on tireless over plot armor. So maybe that's something to play around with our DPS builds that need a bit of survivability. You can take advantage of that to give you more crit. See what happens. And last but not least, automated protomatter conduits. So when crit hit, 440 shield regeneration every second for 15 and 125% hull regeneration for 15 can trigger once every 30 seconds. So guys, I wanted just a lot of passive defensiveness for this build. I wanted to be able to take a hit and not just fall over and also bring itself back up. So you'll see there's times where I'll take a good torp hit and this build will regen back up. It's got a lot of survivability. Anyway, next up, the bridge officer station. So guys, it's a cannon scatter volley build. We wanted cannon scatter volley as high as we can get them. We wanted override subsystem safeties as high as we could get it. We wanted emergency powder engines and emergency powder weapons and emergency powder engines. Then after that, you just want unconventional systems and your trait triggers. So we have best serve cold, but other than that, unconventional systems. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, well, and 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 unconventional systems. I always say unconventional systems is about a 7-second reduction. So what's that? 56 seconds if you hit them all straight away. Plus your subspace fracture tunneling. So you can say on average, like, if you hit them all, you'll get like a minute and 20 back on these 2-minute consoles, maybe even more. Plus, Uncon cools down the Voven console. So you can use the Voven console, use your Uncon, use your Voven again, and that might be even more. That might be your entire time of your console. So that's why this is very strong, guys. So you can get a lot of cooldown reduction all the time with this build. It is fantastic. And last but not least, so guys, if you want to copy this, that's the bridge officer stations. If you want to question anything, you can leave a comment down below, but bridge officer stations are, I think, pretty self-explanatory. CSV, because it's a CSV build. Gravwell, because it's an Uncon trigger. Everything else, because Uncons. Emergency powder weapons for our emergency weapon cycle. Emergency powder engines for our ship of the line and our con hologram, and our unconventional systems triggers. And guys, now with the duty officers. So this is following the same sort of path as before. Is kind of what this character had, or what I had on account unlock, and just throw it this way. So the Boimler and the Mariner are there just because I had no idea what I wanted to put there on account unlock and what I had left, and I just went, you know what? It's just going to prove a point of to do well, you don't really need them. To do exceptionally well, to do like meta level DPS, okay, they're going to help. But to do your 800k, your 500k, to do a competent level of DPS, it's not really needed. But it always helps if you can synergize your build well. So these two are not doing a damn thing. The Boimler and the Mariner are not doing a damn thing. Next up, guys, we have 2. That looks very confusing. We have 2 crit severity energy weapon officers. So guys, these are 3% chance to get 10% crit severity stacking 3 times. So it's not going to give me 60 severity, it's going to give me 30. It's just because I have 2 of them, it'll stack quicker. Next, we have basically the only duty officer that I really cared to have on this build was the emergency con hologram. So it's the recharge on evasive maneuvers when you use emergency powder engines. So guys, if you've never seen that or heard of that duty officer, see my evasive maneuvers down on tray 1. It's running, it's running, it's running. It's almost done. It's over. Now, we'll see it has a 40-second cooldown. I hit emergency powder engines, and it's back up. So, it allows you to have incredibly high uptime on evasive maneuvers, and allows you to use it a lot more and get around a lot quicker. Next up, we have Bowler. So, I was grasping at straws here, guys. This was like 2 million on the exchange, maybe 3. When activating engineering bridge officer abilities, 20% chance for 10% of the next 10 sources of outgoing damage applied as hull healing. So I wanted this to be tanky. I really don't know how much this heals. I don't know if it does anything at all. I just saw it and went, you know what, that sounds interesting. Maybe it's going to help me survive. And I threw it on the build. And as I mentioned before, Boimler and Mariner are there to just to be there, really. Because I was watching Lower Decks the other day with my dad and we're having a laugh, and I thought, you know what the hell, let's put back Boimler and Mariner there just to have them there. Anyway, guys, that's today's build. I know a little bit long, a little bit rambly, a little bit what the hell are you doing, Nick? But guys, for anyone who got to the end, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. Join my Discord, ask questions there if you have more in-depth questions. That is the best spot to get me. I check it every day. And also, I have a great group of people that also answer questions there. So if you're in a time zone that's not suitable for me, it might take me a long time to answer you. You might have somebody else in the Discord get to it before me that knows the answer. So guys, I highly recommend, if you have any questions about my videos or builds or anything to do with builds in general, join the Discord. Join the Discord. The link is down below. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna say goodbye. See you all next time. For those who got all the way to the end, I'm going to continue doing my weekend streams. So Saturday my time, it'll be Friday for most of you. Keep an eye out. I will post the stream earlier. I'm going to hopefully schedule it, and it'll let you guys know the time for this weekend stream. I'll probably do a community post as well. But guys, see you all next time. Bye.
So cold, soft as denim on them ripped jeans. In my old school, remember when I had a 6-speed. Baby, so cold, she been riding ever since then. Baby, so cold, we gotta find a way to fix it. I'ma turn the heat up, so I'ma turn the beat up. The party never leaving, no. And she gon' roll my weed up, and she gon' rotary up. My shawty never leaving, no. I saw you, my breath was taking. One shot, I had to take it. No mistakes, this chick the greatest. What I gotta do, I'm trying to see you naked. Slow the pace, you a woman, not a race. But the way my heart is beating, girl, I'm feeling out of shape. 3 nights in the skin fair, wanna move to the beach, but she been there. Living on the road, she don't need a man. Gotta focus on the plan, gotta win here. She buys her own drinks, buys her own things. Don't gotta answer when the phone rings. Got her own accounts on her own clean. If you touch me the drug, I'm a dope fiend. Baby, so cold, soft as denim on them ripped jeans. In my old school, remember when I had a 6-speed. Baby, so cold, she been riding ever since then. Baby, so cold, we gotta find a way to fix it. I'ma turn the heat up, so I'ma turn the beat up. The party never leaving, no. And she gon' roll my weed up, and she gon' rotary up. My shawty never leaving, no. I'ma turn the heat up, so I'ma turn the beat up. The party never leaving, no. And she gon' roll my weed up, and she gon' rotary up. My shawty never leaving, no. Baby, too hot, I can't let you go. Cold as Mexico, kick your feet up out the Chevy though. Tell me where we going. Remember when I had a pedal on my back, didn't have no telephone. Spoken body language, and we don't need Rosetta Stone. Baby, you my ride or die, but you riding blind. Yeah. Baby, open up your eyes, got me by surprise. You know there's some meat between your thighs, I don't know I like it. I'ma set it on fire, but you cool as ice, yeah. Baby, so cold, soft as denim on them ripped jeans. In my old school, remember when I had a 6-speed. Baby, so cold, sense thing. Baby, so cold, we gotta find a way to fix it. I'ma turn the heat up, so I'ma turn the beat up. The party never leave now. And she gon' roll my weed up, and she gon' roll the reed up. My shawty never leave.